Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. This is a podcast about what makes video games special to different people. And today, folks, I'm laughing maniacally, quietly, because guess what? You're freaking stuck with me. Yep, it's just you, the listener, and me, the host, Connor McCabe, here today on this special episode of what I'm titling the Fall Check-In. Now, I've done something similar to this, or titled like this, once before, where I believe it was fall of 2021. I did, first half of the episode was a fall check-in. I believe producer Jeremy Schmidt joined me for that. And then the second half of the episode, we released a preview of a co-op episode we had coming out at the time. This is actually going to be a lot more similar to one of the first episodes I ever did on this show. The podcast debuted around this time, November of 2019, and going away for the holidays for Christmas, I did a little holiday special episode where I, in the, not even here where I live currently, but at my previous apartment, I sat under a blanket with my old iMac computer and just monologued about my most special holiday gaming memories and a few other things, I believe. And today's going to be something kind of similar to that, where it's mostly just me going to be discussing a bit of a grab bag of little topics and segments that I feel like discussing and sort of articulating in the moment as we go along. To preview it a little more before I get into some housekeeping, I have 11 segments, 11 because of two reasons. One, that we're in the month of November, which is represented by the number 11. If you're abbreviating dates, I feel like I needed to explain that. And also, let's just say that this little Thanksgiving fall dinner is going to have 11 dishes around the table. So we're going to be getting into some fun stuff later. But before we do, a little bit of housekeeping up top is that you obviously can listen to this podcast a bunch of places. You're probably listening to this in your favorite podcast catcher on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Some of you, as I check the statistics, listen to this on your Xbox or on like the web. You can also watch a video version of every single episode, including this one, on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. We've got, 130 subscribers or so, but I release every single new episode of this podcast in video format, unless for some reason something happens to the video, which I think that's only happened once in the last 2 years since I've been doing it consistently. So yeah, the video version's really fun. It's fun to throw on at work as well. You can see a few more visual cues, me and the guests usually interacting. That also includes the co-op episodes. The co-op series, if you're not familiar, which you probably are because I release legacy co-op episodes on this feed, are a monthly bonus that I release over on patreon.com/supernpcradio, which I'll be talking about a bunch today. And it's a monthly bonus episode where I get together with ideally a group of people to discuss one game at a time, a bit of more of an overview episode on that game. And yeah, we've done, I believe we just released co-op episode 64. It's a bonus that we started as soon as the Patreon began in 2020, the summer of that year. We just covered Inside. So those new episodes, while they are audio exclusive to the Patreon for roughly 3 years or so at this point, you can get those about a week later on our YouTube if you want to watch the video format. So yeah, check us out, subscribe to us on YouTube. There's also a bunch of other ways that you can support the show. I don't feel the pressure to zoom through this because I don't have a guest today, so you're going to get the full spiel. There's a bunch of ways you can support us. Most importantly, you can support us over at patreon.com/supernpcradio. That's a place where we have bonus video game podcasts from me and the contributors over there, including Jeremy Schmidt from Video Games, a Comedy Show. Every single week, we do a bunch of bonus stuff over there. We have everything from a free tier, which gets you access to our Discord, where you can have nice conversations with like-minded people about video games, sports, TV, movies, the holidays that we're celebrating. You can also support us in a monetary way. We have a $1 tier, a $5 tier, a $10 tier. All of those offer different bonus exclusives that you get for supporting us. So if you're someone who is a big fan of these shows, you either want bonus content or you want a way to support us additionally outside of just listening to the podcast, which obviously is the thing we're most concerned about, consider supporting us over at Patreon right now. I would say especially right now, because as this episode comes out, we are in the middle of election season. We do a Games Club series, which will probably come up a bunch as well on this podcast. Every single quarter, it's one of our big bonuses at the $5 tier, where we cover a game in a book club style format. We go week by week through a title and get in really to the nuts and bolts of different video games. We're currently in our 12th season of that, our 12th game that we've covered. This format we've been doing for about 3 years. And so not only are a bunch of those, nearly half of them are on the free feed. At this point, actually, I think more than half of them are on the free feed. But the new ones come out on Patreon. And two things you should know is that A, our Hollow Knight Silksong Games Club is airing there currently. We coming out at the time of this episode's release. This Friday will be episode 9 of 11. So if you're loving Silksong and you want to listen to people talk about it, go back, support us at the $5 tier and listen to that series, or you can wait for it in the future. But most importantly is that we're in election season. Every quarter, we give our paid patrons the opportunity to decide what we cover for the upcoming Games Club series. That is available to anybody who supports us at the $1 mailroom toad tier. You can even just hop in for that month, vote, drop out, get your money's worth of all the bonus stuff that is available to those $1 supporters. But we would love if you go and cast a vote. And if you're listening right now and you're a paid patron and you haven't voted yet, please go vote for one of 3 games. We're going to be covering a Nintendo RPG on one of the dual screen handheld systems. This is titled our Rock, Paper, Scissors election. You have the choice to vote between Fire Emblem Awakening, Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, or Pokemon Black and White. And to give you an election update currently, let me refresh the page and make sure that this is accurate. As at the time of recording, which I'm recording this on Monday, November 24th, Pokemon Black and White holds a slim lead over Fire Emblem Awakening, but it's really anybody's game. There haven't been a ton of votes that have been cast by our paid patrons, so if you got to vote, please go vote for whichever game you'd like to hear us cover in a Games Club format, or just whatever you feel like making us play. And if you are listening and you're like, hey, I want to influence that, sign up for the $1 mailroom toad tier before Friday, November 28th at 12 p.m. Pacific. That's when the election ends. Cast your vote. You can vote up until 11:59 a.m. that day. But yeah, so that's a huge way you can support us. Again, it's great for people who either want more bonus content or just looking for a way to help support us. That by supporting us there, you give us the opportunity to, continue to do this, do our programming, and come up with more creative ways to do that. You also help us fund our hosting fees for our podcast. So like this podcast, Call Me By Your Game, I pay a hosting fee every year on a website to host this show. So that helps us take care of that. It helps us pay our artists for the new Games Club art and Patreon art that we have. And it also helps us pay the contributors who are playing these games for these series to help them pay for their video games if they got to buy them. So that's been something that's really cool this year that we've been able to do, starting with our Death Stranding 2 series, an expensive game, a $70 title. We were able to pay for that for everybody on the panel. And that was just awesome. And it goes a long way for our buddies who are still doing this for free. We want to, would love to pay people ideally, but we just don't, we really make just about enough to pay for our expenses and pay for the games. But maybe someday we'll be able to pay people per episode or per Games Club series or what have you. But anyway, patreon.com/supernpcradio. That is the best way you can support us. You can also support Call Me By Your Game by sharing this podcast with a friend. Now, I would recommend sharing this with people, whether they love video games in general and they love to just go through a podcast where, I am talking to people about their personal experiences with video games, or if you're like, oh my gosh, I know that my friend or cousin or whoever loved Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. Go find that episode, share it with them. If you see one that comes across your feed and you're like, I know somebody who loved this game and would probably resonate with the reason that somebody else loves it who came on the show to share that with them. So share the podcast with a friend, rate and review it if you can. If there's ever an opportunity for you to, like, people are asking, what are my favorite video game podcasts, or what are some shows that I should be listening to? Consider sharing this one with them, because it's always been so fun for me to hear reasons that people love the show. And my biggest goal here is to have more people have the opportunity to listen to it. And that's how it's done, by word of mouth. You can also support us by following us on Instagram and Blue Sky, where I post every week about the episodes that we have coming out. That's where you can learn more about the guests, how to support them if they have like a project they're working on, a show, if they're a comedian that are going to be in your city. It's another way you can, support them there. Yeah, you can. Those are pretty much the best ways to do it. Patreon, sharing the show with a friend, and following us on different social platforms. I think that might be all the housekeeping that I really feel like doing. Yeah, that's it. I'll replug things at the end of the podcast as well. A little bit of introduction too. Again, I just talked about the Games Club election, so you're up to date to that. I guess we can get into our 11 segments here on the fall check-in. You know, I've had my turkey. The gravy is digesting in my stomach, and I'm even considering going back for a little turkey sandwich. Why don't we reminisce on the 11 segments that we have here, representing different meals? And I'm not gonna have. I've kind of set that up with the expectation, seemingly, that each of these is going to represent a dish. That's not happening. Just imagine there are 11 dishes, whatever your favorites are. First and foremost, we're going to start with our first segment, a Call Me By Your Game check-in. I've got a couple of updates for you guys regarding the show, and the first of which is that the regular programming that you hear every week on the free feed, nothing's going to change. I do about 3 or 4 brand new episodes every month, plus a legacy co-op episode that gets released on the feed once a month. The most recent episode we released was Chrono Trigger, an episode we did back in 2022. Next, coming up, I believe it might be, I think it's Super Monkey Ball. No, what is coming up next? I have no idea, but something else is going to come out on the free feed as well. So the regular programming is going to stay the same. I haven't done a top 10 episode in a while where I've had, that format where I have guests come back, 3 of them at a time, and they all list their top 10 favorite games from 10 to 1. I'm going to do one soon. I might even be able to sneak it in before the holidays, but I've got enough guests to where I've got one that I'll do as soon as possible, whether it's December or January, and then one maybe around February or March. It's been a while since I've done that format. But the most important Call Me By Your Game check-in that I'm going to do, and this may or may not apply to you because this is more of a Patreon thing that I'm going to get the word out about, is that next year, for 2026, I'm not going to be doing a regularly scheduled co-op series. Talked about the co-op podcasts a lot here. Last year, we covered great sequels. In years past, I covered whatever I just felt like. This year, we've been covering great indie games. So we just did an episode about Inside. Coming up next month, for the month of November, still TBD on what we're covering. In December, we're going to have an episode about Stardew Valley that releases to round out the series. But I'm not going to be doing that series regularly moving forward for a few reasons. One is that, and the primary reason is that I'm trying to carve out more time in my life for things outside of video game podcasts that I have dreams and goals and aspirations for. I've had a tougher time, especially the last few years, about making time for my other creative endeavors that I am deeply just like yearning for and having like a valley. I've been able to make time at certain moments, but it's been a struggle. So having an extra additional game to play each month, and then, schedule and record a podcast episode about and put together a video and graphics and stuff, that has become more of a burden than I would like. And so this has been something I've been thinking about for a little while, but for the year 2026, we're not going to have regularly scheduled co-op episodes on the Patreon. What that means is that it does not mean that I won't ever do a co-op episode again, but if I do them, they're going to be a little more intentional and probably organic. It'll probably be games that I am playing at the time, or whether it be new or old, that I feel like discussing with people. And if someone else is playing it too, then maybe we'll discuss it. So yeah, it could possibly come back in the future as something I do regularly, but balancing, essentially what is another full-time job of running this podcast network and this show and doing all of my regular work that I do to support myself. It's been a little hard to make time for the co-op series. So yeah, that's long-winded, but the co-op series is not going to be continuing in a regular fashion, but you can continue to enjoy the legacy episodes that we release every month here on the free feed. That will have some Patreon implications because it's currently the big ticket item for the $10 engineer toads over there on that tier. So we will, whether we restructure our tiers again, eliminate that tier, or find something that fits well as a replacement, we will figure something out for that. So expect to hear more about that from Jeremy and I as the new year approaches, I guess. That's it for segment 1. Oh yeah, segment 2. I talked about this already. This is not Call Me By Your Game related in segment 1, but check out the Games Club free feed over at Super NPC Games Club. I've been talking a bunch about the legacy games clubs that we have. Those are Patreon exclusives, as I've said, for the $5 DJ Toads, but after a certain amount of time, we release those on the free feed because we just want people to listen to them. So far, the games that are on the free feed outside of our other Games Club series that we used to do are a series about Super Mario 64, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. We also covered Sonic Adventure, Resident Evil 2 Remake. We covered Mass Effect, BioShock, and currently airing over there is our Hollow Knight, the original Hollow Knight Games Club that we did a little over a year ago. So coming up after that too will be the original Death Stranding, and then the games that we covered this year are going to go there. So if you love that sort of format, or any of those games that I just named, you really enjoy and feel like playing and kind of listening along as you play through chapters in those games, check it out. Super NPC Games Club. I would say even if you're a huge fan of the show and you're like, I don't know if I'll listen to that, share it with a friend or subscribe to the feed. And you don't have to download the new episodes if you don't want, but the more eyes we have on that, the better. Now I'll head to segment 2. I want to spend a little time talking about something. In fact, so much of what I'm about to discuss are things I just don't get to discuss on this podcast. You don't get a lot of so much of me sharing about what's going on with me lately, video game wise, or other things that I'm really enjoying, because the aim of the show is to talk to guests about themselves and their memories and currently what's going on with them in video games, even if I am constantly interjecting and sharing about things that resonate with me or or memory that I have that someone makes me think of. So the second segment is something that I've been doing for about 2.5 years that I love, that I don't even know if it's come on the regular feed. It may have come up on Patrick Eller's return episode where we discuss Battletoads. And that's because I love a little app called Pikmin Bloom. For the Pikmin fans out there, for the walkers out there, for anyone who is looking for a reason to get up and get outside and walk around more, get that step count up, I can't recommend Pikmin Bloom enough. It is so much fun. What this app is, and this is a smartphone app that you can get, it's essentially a glorified step counter. It is an app that's free to play that you can put money into. I've never once put a cent into it, but it has really motivated me to get up, get outside, and walk more since I started using it in 2023 or so. Almost every single day, I'm checking in on this thing. I'm checking my step count, which you can sync if you have like I've got a Fitbit, which I realize is not on my wrist right now. You can sync it with your Fitbit if you have like a walking device like that or a step counter. You can connect with your friends too. So over on Patrick Eller's and Mark Mitchell's Discord for Nintendo Cartridge Society, we have a whole Pikmin Bloom channel where all of us who play the app are checking in with each other. We're joining up to do party walks, where if as a group we get a certain amount of steps or plant a certain amount of flowers in the game or the app, that we, get rewards for it. We're setting new goals. We're collecting cute little Pikmin. Again, if you like Pikmin, they have the cutest little decorated Pikmin in this game that you get seeds for. You walk 100 steps, you can grow one. We're fighting mushrooms together. It's a total joy. So if you're looking for like what is mostly, I would say, an app with a passive experience, check out Pikmin Bloom. It's been a huge joy for me to use, and is, like I said, really motivated me to get up and get outside a lot more. And yeah, I just can't recommend it enough. It's fun, whether or not you put money into it. That'll end segment 2, a lot shorter than segment 1. Segment 3, I want to talk about a game that we actually got a code for here at Call Me By Your Game, a little game called Possessors. Now, this is a brand new title released by Heart Machine, who you might know from Hyper Light Drifter and soon to be I think at least the beta of Hyper Light Breaker. But they released a game a week ago, I want to say maybe a week and a half ago, called Possessors, which is a Metroidvania action platformer style game that has so much in common in like the hour that I've played with the Castlevania series, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is a game I really loved that I discussed a little bit last year on the co-op series. But this game is awesome. But I did want to be clear and say, hey, I got a code for it sent to me from Devolver Digital, so take all of this with a grain of salt. A good friend of mine and someone that I'm working on a video game with, Tyler Hutchinson, is the narrative lead on this game, and he did some amazing work. So I would encourage you, if you are someone who loves an action platformer, if you have a Metroidvania shaped hole in your heart where you're looking for something new to play, if you played Silksong and you're like, I want something else kind of in this genre vein, check out Possessors. It's really fun. The platforming is great. The action is great. The animation too, like the art, the aesthetic of it is incredible. It's got sort of the characters and your player character are sort of a flat 2D art style, very vibrant colors with a frame rate that is reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse, at least the character's frame rate. So I think it's like something like 17 frames per second, but the background is mostly 3D models at like maybe I think a 60 FPS frame rate. So the juxtaposition of those, of the interactable art with the background models and other elements in the game is great. So again, check out Possessors. I think it might just be available on Steam right now. So if you're a Steam user looking for a new great action platformer, check it out. Segment 4. I'm going to talk briefly about a little game called Hollow Knight Silksong, a game that I already said we're covering over currently on the Super NPC Games Club on the Patreon, but this game is amazing. I loved the first one. I like this game, I don't know if I would say so much better, but noticeably better than the first. I think so much of it has to do with playing as a new character. You play in this game as a character that you meet in the first one, named Hornet. And Hornet has one of the big reasons that I like this game better is not just that Hornet plays like a completely different character than the Knight did in Hollow Knight, but it's the narrative agency and the point of view that Hornet has that is so strong here and well executed within the narrative. In the first game, the Knight has no agency. The Knight is really a cipher for the player, like many video games. And while it wasn't a problem in that game, Silksong, I think, is really showing how a very intentional perspective for the main character, a drive that they have within a narrative that is more clearly laid out for you, even if still somewhat vague, how much of a strength that can be. I not only love that, but I love the way that she moves around. She's more elegant. She is a little more floaty, which I wouldn't have guessed that I would like for a Metroidvania with such intense action. But it's fantastic. It's such a rich game. It's so deep. I feel like I've had an incredibly thorough experience. I'm about 45 hours into this game. I have cleared Act 2, which rolls credits for you. There is a spoiler for this game, and I'm saying that slowly, but I think a lot of people probably know at this point. There is an Act 3 that you have to meet certain requirements to unlock. I'm still working on that. But I love this game. I love discussing it with my friends over on the Games Club series right now. It's an absolute blast. My friend Charlie, I wish I had it here. For my birthday, Charlie Mihalik, who's on the Games Club, he got me a little 3D printed Hornet magnet from Etsy that I've got on my fridge right now. But yeah, this game is I would say this is a masterpiece. I like it better than the original Hollow Knight, and it has been so satisfying to me that I'm wondering if this is my favorite game in this style ever. At this point, I would say it's not currently, but it could be. I love this style of game. Metroid Dread is my personal favorite of these. Metroid Prime is up there too, as is Super Metroid, and I know that's a lot of Metroids, but yeah, it's amazing. Hollow Knight Silksong, folks. That's segment. Well, before I close it out, I'll say that I'm like cleaning up a bunch of shit in Act 2, and I'm fighting this boss right now that I'm loving the boss fight, but a certain thing has happened where I haven't beaten it yet, so I'm actually starting to get resentful over this boss, kind of like, oh, I was really enjoying this first, learning the patterns, learning how to approach this boss fight, learning my windows to heal, but now I've done it. I don't know, I've probably fought this boss like 12 times and haven't won. I've been close many times. At least I think so. And now I'm like, I'm ready for this boss to be over. It's an optional boss. I don't need to be doing this. But now I do want to do it. That's segment 4, Hollow Knight Silksong. Quickly, I want to talk about reading. Yeah, folks, books here on this podcast. I am someone who is a very streaky reader. Growing up, I was a bookworm. Couldn't not. Am I going to talk about something else later? I want to make sure I don't step on it. Great. Was an absolute bookworm. Read so much. Every season was constantly reading. And as an adult, I find myself way more of a casual reader and a very streaky reader. I read, I think, 2 books in like 2 months recently by who I would say is probably my personal favorite author, which is Kurt Vonnegut. Very cold take. A lot of people love Kurt Vonnegut. He's amazing. He's very, very funny writer. But I read 2 books by him that I had never read. I read Player Piano and I read Slapstick. Immediately adored Player Piano, and I was a little more lukewarm on Slapstick. I didn't really understand what it was going for, and I've got to recommend, we're going to recommend some podcasts later, but I got to recommend the podcast is called Vonneguys. It's a Kurt Vonnegut podcast where they went through the all the books that Kurt Vonnegut ever wrote and did a podcast overview on each of those episodes. That Player Piano, that episode, I felt like so much of what I was feeling and thinking about that book was reflected there, with of course some things that I hadn't considered. And critiques that I maybe was agreeing with afterwards, despite really loving the book. And Slapstick, I had a reverse experience where I was listening to their episode, and it actually illuminated things for me that I just didn't understand that Vonnegut was going for, or things that went over my head that in retrospect felt very obvious. But as a prisoner of the moment reading the book, which is a very easy, quick read, I just completely missed. So yeah, I've been loving these. I love reading, and I love making time, throughout the week to read, often before bed. But it's been about a month since I finished Slapstick, so now I've got a little bit of a empty space on my nightstand where I would normally put a book, where I've been putting something else that I'll name in a couple segments. But yeah, I'm looking for something else to read. I don't know what that is, and this is kind of a tough time to start reading in November when I'm about to be really busy with a lot of podcast editing and recording and of all the other additional work that I do outside of this. But when the holidays roll around, I'll probably want to read. I also read last year, I think the year before, I think I got both of these books for Christmas. I read 2 books by Jason Schreier, who a lot of listeners are probably familiar with as a video game journalist, but he's written a few great books. I have not read his book about Blizzard, which I think is called Play Nice, but I have read Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, which is about development studios and their trials and tribulations, and also Press Reset, which is about the shuttering of many gaming studios. I think those are accurate synopsis of them. But yeah, so anyway, I was streaky and read those 2 back to back basically. So yeah, reading's great. We don't have a channel for books in the Discord, feel free to chime in maybe in general or in the movie and TV channel. But I was talking about those Vonnegut books as I was going through them. So I'd love to know if you're reading out there, and honestly, any thoughts that you have on this episode, just chime in on the Call Me By Your Game channel. Maybe that's the best place to do this. But yeah, reading, it's great. And I'm on the lookout for something to read over the especially December holidays. We'll see. The 6th segment for this episode, we're already on segment 6, is I want to discuss Nintendo Switch Online a little bit. And not really any big opinions that I have on it or ways that I think it falls short or is doing really great. This is more about my sort of, how would I describe this? My poking through these libraries. Occasionally when I'm playing a video game, and I've been noticing this as I've been playing Hollow Knight Silksong, a very punishing game that can sometimes be demoralizing. And there have been plenty of times where I've been playing this game at the end of the night, and it's happened twice this weekend where I was just fighting different bosses each night that I was not making progress on, or that I just knew I was like, I have another level to go with this boss and my ability. This is a tomorrow morning thing or the next day thing or 2 days from now. Let's relax, but I'm not quite done for the night playing video games. So I've been just poking around Nintendo Switch Online, and I really love the act of going through a library, opening up the Game Boy library or the Super Nintendo library, or what was the one that sparked this whole conversation for me, or the NES library, poking through games. Sometimes I just love looking at the game art that is there and scrolling through the horribly organized sort of panels of game cover art that they have. And sometimes I love considering, is this something I want to hop into for 15 minutes? Oftentimes that lends to me hopping into quick games like an action platformer, an adventure game. But occasionally I get a little bee in my bonnet and I decide to open up a game that is not a 15-minute pick up and play experience like a Tetris, but a game that I think would probably benefit from much more investment. And that's the game that I poked into twice this week that I'm absolutely fascinated by. It's actually something we discussed just a few episodes ago with my guest, Lainey Surface, and that's Earthbound Beginnings. Listeners of the show will know that I'm a huge fan of the Mother series, which is not a hot take from someone who has molded a lot of their life around their love and enjoyment for video games, but it is just something that I don't talk about so much on this show anymore. Before we even started this podcast, one of the early, essentially what was an early version of the original Games Club series, where we would cover multiple games in a series and just overview episodes, very similar to the co-op series, but just one episode on the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, Link to the Past. We did all of those in the year 2021. Before that, in the year 2019, myself, Jeremy Schmidt, and Michael Hearn all did an episode on Earthbound. This is a part of the Patreon before it was even Super NPC Radio. This is a part of Jeremy's podcast. It was called Video Games A Serious Show. And I want to say there were about 3 games that covered, 2 to 3. It may have just been that and Toe Jam and Earl that were covered. But when I got my SNES Mini in December 2018, purchased this from dear friend of the show, Michael McCullough, because he had a spare. The game that I fell in love with was Earthbound. I had never really given it a chance. I believe I had booted it up on an emulator growing up, but was really, as people who've played that game will know, it's incredibly hostile to the player, especially at the beginning. Like right at the beginning, as you're just trying to get to the first town, you are constantly getting attacked by snakes, by crows, by dogs. It's awful. And unless you are lucky or you take the time to grind and heal, which draws out the play experience, you're going to get just walloped. But I fell in love with that game, played it all the way through, played it about 2/3 of it a second time when we did our Video Games A Serious Show episode. Mother 3, I finally played when I got my analog pocket in December 2022, January 2023. There's a whole co-op episode about that game that actually I think is probably only a few months from coming out. And that's in my top 20 personal favorite games of all time. It's amazing. I love this series, but I've been playing Earthbound Beginnings, which is a really long road getting here. And boy, is that game fascinating. It's actually, I assumed that it would be significantly more hostile to the player or inaccessible than Earthbound was. And each of them kind of get a little better at that, but never make a huge stride. And it's actually not as deterring as I would have expected. I've mostly just I'm in the first town, going from Ninten's house over to, I don't even remember what the first town is called, but I've just been grinding because the game is so difficult when it comes to battles early on because you just have one character. It's Dragon Quest style battle where you only see the enemies. You have one character at the start, and it's very difficult. And the roll of the dice can really screw you at points. I've always heard about how this game is essentially described as like a prototype for Earthbound and how it has so much in common with it, from Nintendo looking like a first evolution version of NES, as if NES was like the Ivysaur to Nintendo's Bulbasaur. But it's incredible. It's so charming. It's really crazy to see what the game's director, Shigesato Itoi, all of the things that he iterated on going into Earthbound, the changes he made, and then the things that just are the same and frustrating. But it is still really charming. I was texting Lainey about it the other day. It's a marvel. And I think it's something that, because it's on my Switch 2 library, I might just keep poking around in every so often. The only thing that could be a problem is if I take too much time off, I'm probably going to forget what I'm doing, which is a classic issue for a JRPG style game. But Earthbound Beginnings, check it out. If you like the Mother series or Earthbound or Mother 3 and you've just not given it a shot, it's an absolute marvel. It's such a curiosity. I don't even know if I think it's good, but I am captured by it. So that is segment 6, Nintendo Switch Online, which led me to Earthbound Beginnings. Number 7. This is probably the segment I'm most excited for. And I'm titling this segment Handheld Gaming Love. Recently, in the last year, it's kind of been the year of the retro handheld for me. And unfortunately, I don't have any good things to say about the many retro handheld devices that you can purchase new today, like a Retroid Pocket or any of those types of systems. I just don't have any. What I do have, however, are a decent amount of retro gaming handhelds that were original. I have found myself playing so many different things this year, which we're going to do an episode near the end of the year where Jeremy Schmidt and I talk about our top 9 favorite games not from the year 2025. It's a episode. It's a style of episode we used to do on our Patreon exclusive series, Super NPCs. But now, as of last year, since that was our first year not doing the show, it's become a Call Me By Your Game episode that we do every December. And something that happens to me every so often on his show, we do one of my favorite formats, a format that I love to tell anyone I can that I came up with. It's not like the most original thing in the world, but it was one of the things that I realized when I came up with it. I was like, in retrospect, was like, this is something I care about, and I love coming up with fun sort of formats and frames to have conversation about video games in. And that's the Space Solace series. This is essentially a Desert Island meets console fantasy draft format that we do over in Jeremy's show, Video Games a Comedy Show. We just did one on the Nintendo 3DS, and because of that, I'm jonesing for the 3DS. But in the last year or so, we've done episodes on the Nintendo DS, the PlayStation Portable, the PSP, and now the 3DS. And every time we do one of these systems, and I notice this is more true for the handhelds than the I guess home gaming consoles, I absolutely become obsessed and can't stop thinking about the games on the system, and I want to play the system. Last year, I asked for but did not receive a Sony PSP 3000 for Christmas. Did not get that, which is perfectly fine. And because we had just done an episode in November about the PSP, so I was just absolutely enthralled with it. And I've been playing so many handheld games this year on my different devices. On my PlayStation Vita, which I am able to play PSP games on there. I still do want a PSP. Tell Santa if anybody knows him. But I've been able to do that there, which has been just as satisfying. Ever since the 3DS episode, I've been jonesing for some 3DS, and I've been poking around on some games. A game that will, I think, probably come up on, this leads me to this, the games that have been really on my mind because of this. The game that it led me to for just picking up and playing that week we did that episode, and since then, was New Super Mario Bros. 2. This is the New Super Mario Bros. Game where the big gimmick I think that a lot of people remember about it is the coins. They're constantly throwing coins at you. There's a million coins in the game. And I think that kind of does the game a little bit of a disservice. It's a great Mario platformer. And it was the one that I had never played and forgot that I actually owned on the 3DS. So earlier, the last few weeks, I started that game and finished it. Just blew through it. It became something that I would play on breaks while I was sitting here doing video editing, or like right maybe for like 10-15 minutes before bed, I'd slide it in to my bedside table and whip it out. But it's fantastic. I played that on my new Nintendo 3DS XL. This is this crimson one that I have that is phenomenal. It's like not my original one, but it was so cool to use the 3D slider for that. After I played that, I still had an appetite for New Super Mario Brothers, and so I picked up an old save that I had on my DS copy that I started last year, I think it was 2024, and I played through that whole game. I just beat it last night. Here's my Nintendo DS Lite that I have. This is the console that I played it on, and I've been just having so much fun having excuses to get out my retro handhelds and like give each of them a little love. I always have this idyllic goal of playing at least one game on every system that I own every year, and inevitably I fall short somewhere. Last year I didn't play anything on the PS3. This year I don't think I've turned on my Xbox 360, which is a shame. But so what I've been doing lately is just having excuses to like play my old handhelds. I also finally homebrewed my Nintendo 2DS, my original doorstop red and black 2DS. And so I've been able to play games that were only exclusively available on the eShop there that have never been released since. And that includes a game I brought up on the Space Solace episode about the 3DS, Attack of the Friday Monsters. So I've been just playing crap on my 2DS as well. I also did come into purchasing another DS system and a 3DS from a dear friend of the show, Teo Yang, who was getting rid of this gorgeous black new Nintendo 3DS XL. I mean, this thing is just gorgeous. He even has a couple games on it digitally. It's absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, handheld gaming, I've been obsessed, and which is part of the reason why I knew we wanted to cover like a Nintendo RPG for next quarter's Games Club series. And of course, it felt perfect that I found 3 very well loved, highly regarded games on the Nintendo DS family of systems in Fire Emblem Awakening, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, and Pokemon Black and White. One of which is on both systems, one of which is DS exclusive, one of which is 3DS exclusive. So I'm so pumped, and I can't wait to do that. I'll probably be bring like a DS or a 3DS with me over the holidays as well, which I'll get into a little later. But handheld gaming love, I can't get enough of it. For segment 8, I've been watching a lot of stuff that I've been really enjoying. I haven't been going to the movies as much as I did this summer, where I was seeing a movie a week. I think my favorite movie of the year, I'll say, is Weapons. Number 2 is One Battle After Another. I also loved, what was that movie? 28 Years Later. Those are probably my top 3. I did see Wicked for Good this week, but I have been in a movie hole since One Battle After Another, but I have been watching some stuff at home. 3 quick highlights. My girlfriend Amanda and I are watching the show Pluribus. It is done by Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, starring Rhea Seehorn, who is just an absolutely lights-out actor. It's an incredible, I think a really compelling sci-fi show with some mystery to it that is available on Apple right now. I won't say anything else about it because I think there's things that could be spoiled. And I would say run, don't walk. By the time this episode comes out, I think there's going to be 4 episodes that are out there. They release every Friday, so check out Pluribus on Apple. I also love The Chair Company. Tim Robinson, I just think he's absolutely hilarious. That's also a very, very cold take, but his style of comedy is so funny. He's able to... There's so many things I love about his style. He somehow can make like nonsensical, ridiculous comedy or throwaway lines really funny and work within the framework of a game. When I say game, I mean like the sort of like the setting up of expectations and breaking them and finding a pattern that you can do that in when it comes to like a joke or comedy. It's amazing. And The Chair Company has been really interesting to see what him and his team are able to do narratively. He came out with the movie earlier this year, which I also really loved this movie, Friendship, starring him and Paul Rudd. And it was so funny and interesting to see him do something that wasn't just like isolated sketch. And The Chair Company obviously has its differences from Friendship, where you're seeing a very similar character going through his life, getting absolutely distracted by the most mundane of, like, an event happens in his life, which I'll spoil here. It happens in the first episode, where a chair breaks that he sits in the middle of a big presentation in front of his company, and it basically drives him insane to find out what's going on with his chair company. He kind of almost like starts to ruin his own life because of this. But it's so funny. Check out Chair Company. The last episode's going to air this Sunday on HBO. And then I watched a movie the other night with some friends. We watched the movie Game Night, starring Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. Kyle Chandler's in it. Lamorne Morris. Absolutely hilarious movie. Not perfect by any means, but we were looking for a movie to watch. I think it's on Netflix right now. Threw it on, and I'd always heard really good things about it, but it's about a couple who are really competitive game players, whether it's trivia, board games, you name it. They're extremely competitive, and they basically find themselves in a situation where they have a game that they simply must win. So I would check that out too. That's segment 8, just good stuff I've been watching. Segment 9, I'm going to do a few podcast recommendations. This is something I think I did on the holiday holiday memories episode back in 2019. But I've got 3 podcast recommendations, all video game stuff. I think all of these have come up on the show before. First and foremost is my personal favorite show to listen to right now, which is Into the Aether. This is a podcast that releases every Wednesday. Brendan Bigley and Stephen Hilger are the 2 hosts, and they the show is so lovely. I discovered it in January of 2024, and it's these two guys just talking about whatever they want to discuss in video games, which that might sound like, oh, that there's such loose framework. Like, what is the show even about? And it's really about their passion and musing for games. They don't feel like they need to adhere to the release schedule of new games that are coming out or to be on top of like the zeitgeist. They sometimes are playing the games that are being hotly discussed, like Hollow Knight, Silksong, but they're incredible. They do really great work. You can tell they really like each other, and they're really great at not only articulating what they enjoy about video games or their opinions about video games, but they're great about making space for each other, sharing that space. It's lovely. If you're kind of in a place where you're sick of like aggressive, annoying video game podcasts, this is not one of them. This is as high of an endorsement of a podcast I can give. I just joined their Patreon as well because when we were preparing for a Nintendo 3DS Space Solace, I was looking for Nintendo 3DS like retrospective episodes to listen to, and they had done a preview on their free feed of a Patreon exclusive they did on the 3DS, and I had been meaning to join for a while, and I was like, boom, I'm joining, I'm listening to that, and I'm here. So Into the Aether. Check it out wherever you get your shows. I'll put a link to these 3 recommendations as well below the show notes. Pew Pew Bang is another podcast I want to recommend. We just had Kelsey Lewin on the show, and 2 past guests, Haley McLean and Jana Garcia, as well as someone who hasn't been a guest on the show, Sarah Podzorski. The 4 of these wonderful people from the MinMax show and other places on the internet started their own podcast earlier this year called Pew Pew Bang. They describe it as sort of a video game podcast meets slumber party, and it's so much fun. What I really love about this podcast, it has some things in common. So there's some reasons that I like it that I also like Into the Aether, is that not only do I like think these 4 people are just fantastic and love listening to them, and Janet is a good friend, so like I'm biased there. Haley and I have done a bunch of shows together. And Kelsey, we got to hang out at Janet's wedding, and along with Sarah as well, but they're just such lovely people who are so great, like the Into the Aether guys, at articulating what they love and what they don't love about video games, and diving into topics and teasing each other and joking. And I am someone who loves a long podcast because I'll listen to it in multiple sittings. I'll like listen to it on a walk. I'll listen to it in the car while I'm cleaning. And they release big chunkers of episodes out there. I believe the episode they released today is called Sci-Fi versus Fantasy, which I can't wait to hear what they have to say about that. But it really is just like a great hang. It's not Good Hang by Amy Poehler. It's a really great hang. So check out Pew Pew Bang wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, it's another sort of breath of fresh air in video game podcasts. And then lastly is a show that I think I've recommended before, but I've been listening to a lot lately again, and that's Cane and Rinse. They're another video game overview focused podcast where they program. Literally all they do is release episodes based on one game at a time. I recently listened to an episode about Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. I'm listening to an episode about Earthbound Beginnings, games that I've already mentioned on the show. But it's great. So if you have video games you love, you want to hear them talk passionately about them, go listen to Cane and Rinse. Can't recommend it enough. I know plenty of people who listen to video game podcasts, are big into games, and they don't know the show. And which is nuts, because I think there's just so many video game podcasts out there, it's hard to know them all. That's segment 9. Again, my recs, Into the Aether, Pew Pew Bang, and Cane and Rinse. I'll put a link to those main show feeds in the show notes, or the episode plugs below the show notes even. Segment 10. We're almost there, folks. Segment 10 is my winter gaming plans. As I near the end of Hollow Knight Silksong and also swiftly approach the holiday season, I am growing so excited to be in a moment where I am not playing games for an assignment or homework or a podcast. It's so much fun. Last year, a couple years ago actually, I played like 30 hours of Octopath Traveler 2, a game which I completely adored but just fell off due to other responsibilities that I had, gaming and otherwise. And this year, I just can't wait. I already know. I'm definitely taking the Switch 2 with me. And I would love to play Metroid Prime 4 So maybe Santa Claus, if he doesn't bring me a PSP, could bring me Metroid Prime 4. I'd love to play that as Amanda and I are traveling and taking a bunch of flights. And I'll definitely be bringing either a DS or a 3DS with me. I could play Attack of the Friday Monsters. I could play Pocket Card Jockey. I could play a number of the games I'm looking at over here that I don't have. What I think I will do is that once this Games Club election is decided and we know we're either playing one of those 3 games, I think what I'm going to do is bring along one of the 3 that doesn't get chosen as our game that we're going to cover starting in January. So whether it's if Pokemon wins, Pokemon Black and White, maybe I'll take Fire Emblem Awakening. If Fire Emblem Awakening wins, maybe I'll take Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story or Pokemon, or both in my case. But I really love to sink into a JRPG around that time, usually one that I'm just not even going to come close to finishing, like Octopath. So yeah, all those games sort of fit well in the sort of tactical, turn-based RPG nature. So I'm hoping for some Metroid Prime 4, for some one of those RPGs that doesn't win, and maybe another little oddity over here, or an indie game or something. That's segment 10, my winter gaming plans, bringing the Switch 2 and a DS system with me over the holidays. And lastly is the podcast slate to close out 2025. A little bit of this is more programming stuff, so sorry to finish with essentially what are like doing the dishes of this meal. And my winter gaming plans were the dessert, I guess, which for me, ideally, is going to be a piece of pumpkin pie. Love pumpkin pie. Didn't like pumpkin pie until I was an adult. Now I can't get enough of this stuff. A little coffee in the morning? Forget about it. The podcast slate to close 2025. Here are some plans that we know we have coming up. We've got our Game of the Year dual episode that we'll do on Video Games, a Comedy Show. We don't know exactly what we're going to do for that yet, but Jeremy and I are going to be meeting pretty soon to not just forecast what we're getting into next year, but also to talk about the Game of the Year stuff and whatever competition we're going to make. Last year was so much fun. We crowned 2 champions. 2 people won Game of the Year. Yeah, people can win Game of the Year. So we'll be doing that over on Video Games, a Comedy Show. I have a couple of new guests that are going to be featured on the main feed here before the year is up as well. I can't say who because I know that because we don't have dates on the calendar, so I don't want to promise anyone before they are there. Jeremy and I are going to be doing as I've already said, the top 9 games not from this year, so celebrating my top 9 favorite games that I played this year that aren't brand new, as opposed to doing a top 9 games of this year segment. So we'll do that. For the co-op series, November is still TBD. I think I know what I want to cover, but I need to check the hour time on that to see if I can fit it in. And then, actually, I know what we're doing. I know what I'm playing. We're covering Night in the Woods, which also might come out in December, even though it is our November episode. And we are covering Stardew Valley. Nick Costanza is jumping in to host that episode for me, kind of like how Courtney Vinay's hosted an episode about Balatro earlier this year. But you got 2 more co-op episodes coming, episodes 65 and 66. And then again, as I've said, that series will not be moving forward regularly. It'll be on a case-by-case basis. There could be 1 co-op episode a year. There could be none. There could be 5. Well, it'll depend on my appetite and workload. But we have those coming up for the rest of the year. We might get a top 10 favorite games episode in as well on the main feed here. And then, as you know, on the Patreon podcast feed for our DJ Toads, the Silksong Games Club will conclude in a few weeks after 3 more episodes. And then coincidentally, the Hollow Knight Games Club, the original Hollow Knight that we covered, is airing on the Super NPC Games Club feed right now. So that's what will air there. But that's it. That closes out segment 11. All 11 of those delicious little bites and dishes that we covered are done. To close things out, quick reminder, if you want to support the podcast, please share this show with a friend. Again, share an episode if they just love video games in general, maybe don't send them this one, but send them any episode. But if they like a specific game and you know we've covered that, or you scroll through this podcast episode list and you see something that they love, share it with them. You can also support us on Patreon. That's the most helpful thing you can do. check us out on patreon.com/supernpcradio. It helps to support us at the free tier, at the $1 tier, or even the $5 tier, where our Games Club series lives at the $5 tier. You get a bunch of our backlog stuff that is still exclusive to the Patreon at the $1 tier, including 100 episodes of the Super NPCs show, which is an old show Jeremy and I used to do every single week. And you can also, again, at that $1 tier, you have the ability to vote. So please, if you have a vote and have not cast it yet, or you are considering jumping in at the $1 Mailroom Toad tier, go and sign up at patreon.com/supernpcradio at that $1 tier. Make your vote heard. And hey, if we end up covering one of the games you want to listen to, consider jumping up to the $5 DJ Toad tier, or don't and just wait till you listen to that in the future. But that's a huge way you can support us. Even $1 drop in the bucket like that makes a big difference for us over on our Patreon. A few more plugs. I guess I'll go. I normally do this whole song and dance when I close out with plugs. Check out our cover artist, Glenn J. His Instagram is in the show notes, along with all of these other links, including a link to the Patreon. Thank you to Jeremy Schmidt, who's our producer, our editor, and does the original music throughout. And don't forget to follow the show on YouTube to watch the video version of any episode, including this one, where it's just going to be me looking in the camera the whole gosh darn time and showing off a couple DS systems as I did. You can also follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Connor McCabe. And that is going to do it for another episode of Call Me By Your Game. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. Eat some good food, play some video games, and yeah, I'll catch you. We got a co-op episode releasing next week, so not a brand new episode, but a great whatever. Like I said, I don't know what game it is, but whatever we did back in September of 2022, that's coming out next week. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on the next one.